Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the conversation. My name is Michael Barnett, founder and CEO of LoanSpark. And today I am joined by Matt Baxter, who is the CEO of Wedge HR, an HR tech platform based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Super excited to have you on the podcast today, Matt. This is a long time coming. We've been planning this for the last several months and really happy that our schedules were able to finally align to get us both in the same place in the same time. So
we're here. We made it.
Yeah, we made it. So thank you for being here. And I would like to say that I've known Matt for a couple of years now. It's a little over 2 years that Matt and I have known each other. And Matt, you were one of, and I don't know if you know this, I think you know this, you were one of LoanSpark's first customers. And
come on now. Yeah, baby.
super excited about that. So LoanSpark as a company, we launched in July of 2021, where we started building our platform, but we actually didn't start funding loans until early fall of 2022. And I think it was around that time that you and I had spoken, and you became a customer of LoanSpark. So that was awesome. Appreciate you.
Great process. Highly recommend it to anybody for sure. It was great.
Not meant to be a commercial for LoanSpark.
Cheap plug, of course.
But really appreciate the relationship and also appreciate your trust in LoanSpark. So thank you, Matt. Just thought you should know that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Okay, so with that said, Matt, could you tell us a little bit about Wedge, what Wedge does, and how it all works, just so for everyone who's watching, they get an idea as to the company that you've built and the company that you're leading, and then we can jump into some of the cool content that we have in store for everybody.
Happy to, and just want to say thank you again, and I got to give a shout out to your wife, Sasha, who I originally met and then introduced me to you, and I've really just enjoyed getting to know you guys both as friends, and I consider you both mentors. So this is super fun for me. But highlight on Wedge. So we're B2B software. We're in the HR technology software space. We are what's called video interviewing, but when people hear video interviewing, they think Zoom, FaceTime, Teams, Riverside recording, things like that. Different than those, we are asynchronous video interviewing, but nobody can spell asynchronous. So typically we refer to it as on-demand or one-way. So companies buy our technology and they implement it into their hiring process as a screening tool. Typically that ends up falling in the way of high volume, high turnover type roles. And a lot of times companies would use our technology typically as a phone screen replacement or an early screening tool. So it's been a blast to work with organizations like YMCA Gyms, Goodwill, Chick-fil-A, MIT, Crypto, helping people hire both here in the United States and globally as well. We just did an audit. We've officially had candidates in 40 different countries record Wedge videos, which is pretty exciting. And so, just a high level. And typically how it works is, obviously there's a sales process, but when we identify an opportunity where organizations either have a ton of resumes they're trying to shift through, or they're spending a bunch of time scheduling interviews, or really in our world, we're trying to solve candidate ghosting. People who apply to a bunch of different jobs and don't show up to that interview is a huge issue. And that's where Wedge technology is typically often used to help solve some of those big challenges.
And I saw that you have achieved over 330,000 wedges or video interviews. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, we just hit, I think it's 360 as of this morning, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
So it's fun. I mean, if you think 360,000 interviews, those are jobs, those are people, those are hopefully helping people put food on the table. So, I know we're going to probably talk about war stories, but when you think about the battles that you fight and what you go through to be an entrepreneur, it's a pretty cool moment to step back and say, we've impacted like hundreds of thousands of people, which is a really cool thing.
It is really, really cool. And most don't know what the founder and the founding team have to go through in order to put out a quality product like you have. And not only put out a quality product, but then maintain that product, maintain the levels of customer satisfaction, uptime, et cetera, et cetera. What most just see is the product, or what most just read are the headlines, but don't really know what really goes in to like the things that are happening behind the curtain. So wanted to jump in to some of those things today. But first, Matt, your story, man, it is, in my opinion, it's pretty awesome. Want to hear all about the lawn service and how that and the lawn business and how that all kind of went about and how you ended up founding Wedge. Cool story. Don't want to keep it a secret. Would love for you to share it because these are the things that those who are watching our podcast want to hear about.
I think you give me far too much credit. I would, instead of an amazing story, I would call it a professionally scatterbrained is probably the best way to describe it. But I come from a family of all doctors. I think it goes back like 5 or 6 generations of Dr. Baxter, and I'm the first non-doctor. And my dad pretty early on, I got to give him credit. Basically, is like, you're probably not going to go into this, so why don't you go get a job, build some work skills, and you'll figure out your career from there. And so I was fortunate. He had a mower in his garage, and I started knocking on doors, and I said, hey, can I mow your lawn? Can I pick some weeds? And this was when I was 15. And pretty quickly, I had a couple of accounts, and then a couple of accounts grew into a lot more accounts. And so I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and by the time I was a senior in high school, I realized like I was going to a college about 3 hours away, and lawns keep growing in the fall and the spring. Most people know that. So I needed to hire some help. So I hired my first full-time employee when I was a senior in high school and just help kind of manage and keep growing the accounts. And different than high growth software, this was kind of bootstrapped business. And so You kept growing the business as long as you kept growing accounts. And if your accounts aren't growing, you're not growing the business. And so I just fortunately lived in an area that was, middle to upper class. And so there was a lot of people who paid for lawn service and help service around the area. And we quickly got to a point where I think we were averaging about 90 accounts on a weekly basis. Wow. Probably 60 residential and about 30 commercial accounts. And you'll love this. My very first lawn account was a guy who owned a funeral home. And this funeral home, basically, he would call me at midnight and say, hey, somebody just died. I need you to show up and mow at 7 a.m. so that it's clean for the funeral.
All right. So it's got to look good. It's got to look good for the funeral.
It's got to look good. And so a weird twist of fate, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, I started to read obituaries because that typically meant job security the next day. I would have a phone call to go mow a lawn. And it was awesome. And there was plenty of days I'd much rather be sitting mowing a lawn than sending emails like I do all day long. But by the time I was a sophomore in college, I was go back and forth 2.5, 3 hours. And we had about 7 employees, some part-time, some full-time. And I just developed hiring. And for me, for folks that have a nice lawn care is kind of an intimate thing. It's not really something you think about, but people care about what their lawn looks like. It's a sense of pride. It's people driving by. You want to have the nice house. You want to have the nice lawn. And so for me, it was really important to hire people that had a natural sense of customer service, right? Typically with lawn care, you're dealing with blue collar folks. And sometimes that means they've got the lip in. Sometimes they've got the headphones going. They're smoking cigs. And so it was teaching them like, hey, if you're going to go up to a customer, take the dip out. Don't be smoking a cig. Take your headphones off. And if you naturally knew those things, I could teach you what it meant to mow a good lawn. I could teach you how to do the actual work that needed to be done, but I couldn't teach you the personal skills as effectively. And so I got approached by a property management company. So real quick, in the lawn care industry, all your cash flow comes from mowing a bunch of lawns and all your upside comes from the big landscaping projects. Well, dumb luck, I built a business that had all the cash flow, but none of the real big upside. And so it was the perfect thing for a big property management company to come buy because they could buy the accounts and then they could go upsell services pretty easily. So I got approached by a property management company that said, hey, we've known you for a long time. We know a lot of your accounts. We know you're back and forth trying to go to college. If you ever want to sell your accounts, let us know. And I was like, all right, let me buy you a beer and let's talk about that. And they ended up making an offer that was not life-changing in the grand scheme of it, but life-changing for a 21-year-old. And it was a cool transition out. I kind of helped with the transition for another 6 months. And then I walked away, and it was got my first exit under my belt, if you will. And
wow.
So I had probably 6 months to a year from there where I just had, I mean, I was going to college and took some time to kind of reflect around like, all right, that entrepreneur thing is pretty cool. It wasn't without its stress. It was 4 a.m. starts, sharpening blades, changing oil, followed up by, 10 or 11, you're doing the books, and it's 16, 17, 18-hour days. I had some days that were 20, 22 hours, but you just develop a high that you just love it, right? And it's just something that's like, this is something I'm passionate about. We're delivering good service, and I just caught the bug. And it got me thinking about hiring and what I did well in that business. And I just started talking to a lot of business owners, and everybody said the same thing. Hiring sucks. Resumes are useless. Finding great people is a challenge. And
Yes.
and it just felt like there was this gap between what's said on a resume, what a written sheet of paper looks like in the application process, compared to who that person is showing up to actually perform the job that needs to be done. And Michael, you get this. Like, I'm a sales guy. I love interviewing, but there's a lot of really talented people who may not be great at interviewing, or vice versa. For me, it's like my GPA wasn't great. My ACT score wasn't great. Even my college credentials weren't great. But get me in a room with somebody and I could prove why I'm worth hiring. And it felt like there was just this gap of not that opportunity wasn't present for candidates, and there wasn't the efficiency allowed for companies to be able to do that. And so thus birthed the idea for what Wedge is today was, all right, can we create a solution that allows companies to have better insights into who candidates are early in the process, and for candidates to have an opportunity to stand out above and beyond a resume and a cover letter. So we started working on this idea. I had a buddy who was a developer. He was working for a different dev firm at the time, or dev shop at the time. And I just said, hey, can I fund this and get it started? And so we started kind of the beta, and this was late 2017, early 2018, got a couple customers. And about the same time, I got introduced to some wealthy alumni from the college that I went to. And a couple of them said, and I'm happy to dive into some crazy stories, but a couple of them were like, we don't want you to fund this on your own. Can we be your first angel investor? And I was like, I don't know what that means, but sure. And so I had a couple, I had a couple guys, I had 3 guys write me $50K checks to sort of build this beta product. And so we got that going kind of mid 2018, early 2019. And then we started to roll a little bit. I mean, it was slow start for being a angel backed company, but we started getting some customers, started getting product out there. And then COVID hit. And it was an interesting time because we were an early video product, but we had some really good partners established. And our partners came to us and they were like, we need this like yesterday because COVID's going to be a huge problem for businesses. And quite frankly, that's what got us on the map. That's like what got us started really delivering some scale to our product. And I mean, there's a lot more war stories in the midst of that, but that's kind of really what got us started. And it's been a crazy, crazy ride ever since. So I went from a bootstrapped lawn care to, now a venture-backed HR product that
HR product.
Which is not necessarily a typical career transition, but it's been a ride ever since, man. So that's probably a high level. I'm happy to double click wherever makes sense.
Well, congratulations. And I know it's been a journey and a ride, and we'll dive into some of the war stories in just a little while. But I think what's important to highlight just with your story and the story of entrepreneurs are that there is always some luck involved, right? In the story, there's always some luck involved, but then there's the other component of creating your own good luck by working hard, by paying attention, by asking questions, listening, looking for problems, or even if you're not looking for problems, know when you found or stumbled on a problem that is something that you believe you can solve. Yep. And it sounds like whether it was intentional or not, you were in that state of mind or in that mind frame when you stumbled upon the idea for Wedge. Now, sounds like selling the lawn care business wasn't an accident. You may have starting the business may not have been planned or some like devious strategy, right, to start this lawn care business, but sounds like something that you kind of fell into. You made it happen, put effort into it, grew it, sold it, and hey, that's like the next logical progression, and it just worked out. But to making that jump
And
from that to Wedge.
yeah, and just to add that, like, I want to emphasize a point you made. Like, me starting the lawn care was, quite frankly, like, I wanted to have enough money to buy a nice truck and take a girl on a date in high school and probably some beer money in college. Like, it wasn't a major, like, grand kumbaya. It was more so like, hey, this works and I can make more money mowing one lawn than I could working a shift at a fast food restaurant. And then it just kind of kept propelling from there. And now with Wedge, it was like, all right, I was reflecting on what worked from that business, talked to a lot of people, felt like there was an issue, and started another one. And that's, and you get this. I mean, I can learn 10 times the wisdom from you that you can learn from me. But one thing I would emphasize to anybody like wanting to start a company, I think so many people are obsessed with like the next great idea, the next grand kumbaya thing that's going to change
the next unicorn, billion-dollar company.
Yeah, screw that. Get out of that mentality and go solve real problems. And that's one of the continuous mistakes that I even make today is like, I'm so at times enamored with the next shiny object or the next major excitement. And it's more so like, I got to pause and reflect. Am I actually solving business problems? And what are those real business problems? And if I'm trying to convince people so frequently what that problem may be, then it's not really a problem to begin with. It's got to be actually solving legitimate issues for folks. And the money comes, the investment comes, or not the investment comes. You may not need it. But if you're solving true business challenges and true life challenges for people, you're going to build something great.
And focus on those challenges. Like you said, just chasing the shiny object. The way that translates for me is feature creep. And I'm sure you're a product company, so development company, is feature creep. It's like, oh, there's this new shiny new button that we can add, or this new feature that we can add to our product. And then now you're focused on this new feature and may not be focused on, well, what is the core user experience in the product and any challenges with that user experience that I'm trying to solve versus add a new button, right?
Yep, that's it. That's right.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you for the story. Appreciate that. Now, one of the things, or one of the many things that founders have to deal with, is the amount of effort that it takes to put into your idea in order to get that idea off the ground. So if you think of it like, I think of it as like, how much gas do I have to burn? How many miles do I need to drive just to get the idea off of the ground? That's phase one. Ideas off the ground, right? I have maybe product market fit. Now, how much gas do I need to burn? How many miles do I need to drive to then take it from, okay, now I have a couple of clients, but now let's turn this into a revenue generating enterprise. So that's a whole other story, right? I may need to build a whole new car for that. And I may need a whole new different octane of gas in order to get me to those next levels. But as a founder, you can't just you can't just take time off, go to the garage and build a whole brand new car. You have to stay in the race, right? Changing the tires while still driving the car, right? Taking 15-second pit stops and getting right back into the race. So that's something that, to be a successful founder, likely you have to learn how to do. And what comes along with that at work ethic is the high potential for burnout. And I know those that I've spoken to who are inspirational founders, some who may not be inspirational founders, but still nonetheless have put a significant amount of effort into getting their idea off the ground and then moving it to that next level of acceptance. There's been some stages of burnout along the way. Now, for my own personal experience, I have burned out many times in my career, not just as a founder. I burned out in jobs that I've had where I was like a manager or a senior manager or even a salesperson. I've experienced burnout because the effort for me is just a personality trait. I'm going to put in max effort, max burn, max RPMs until I can get to the level of success that I think makes sense for me. Not everybody's like that. I get that. But still, nonetheless, there's a lot of effort that needs to go into getting to a level of success, and burnout happens along the way. So has that true for you? Have you experienced burnout as well? And Have you kind of had to figure out how to like pull yourself out of that?
So I don't think I could do your listeners justice if I sugarcoated this. So I'm gonna get about as real as I possibly can with this. I would say at some of the personally darkest places you can get to. I mean, not wanting to get out of bed, questioning everything my life is. I mean, in really, really, really dark places. And not just once, it's been multiple seasons of it. And it's not just been like, oh, a bad night, a bad thing happened. It's been like 6 months straight of like, I'm done. I'm ready to give up. And not just on the business, just in life. And so I think there's been plenty of stages that I have been there. So my answer is undeniably, absolutely. And I would say, quite frankly, I'm working through some of that even as we speak, just like what it takes to, one, be a healthy entrepreneur and a healthy leader, but secondly, and also more importantly, what it's like to be a healthy human in the midst of this, whatever you may be doing. Like you said, whether you are an employee, whether you are just getting started, whether you're a manager, whether you are the man or the woman. And, some steps that I have taken is like, you just got to have a sanity check around what are you putting into your life that could be hindering some of those things. So for me, there's been times where, is drinking healthy, right? As a founder, you're in the midst of happy hours and investor meetings, and you find yourself doing 3 or 4 happy hours every single day. And it's like, all right, is that healthy for me? And there's been seasons where I've justified it. And there's been seasons where it's like, man, I'm actually, this is not a good thing for me. And I've pulled the plug in a lot of different ways on that. Number 2, like and I know it sounds so dumb, but it's like, are you working out? Are you finding an hour reprieve? It doesn't matter if it's at 3 a.m. or midnight, but are you finding a chance to have, just healthy things in your body? And then also, like, what's your purpose beyond it? Do you have a family? Are you able to dedicate some time to your family? For me, I'm a single guy, but I have some loved ones. I've loved friends. I've got family. And so it's like, I need to force myself because I can get so enthralled, so obsessed that I'm forgetting about those people in my life. And when I take time to pour into those, it actually pours back into me. And so I think just starting block is like, as a human, a sanity check around like, are you putting healthy things in your life that's outside of work that actually helps and supports you, or are you just escaping those challenges as well? So I think that's one start. I think the second thing is like, I have the 2 biggest things that I chase are, number 1, I chase the shiny object and easily distracted, and number 2, I would say I spend a lot of time with busyness over productivity. So to me, I love being busy. I love a day with 24 hours of phone calls. Like, I can run at a speed that most people can't run. But am I running at a speed that most people can't run effectively? Or am I just filling my time so that I can feel like I'm accomplishing something, but it's not actually moving the business forward? And I definitely have found seasons where I said yes to everything, and those weren't serving me. Those weren't serving the business. And also equally, those weren't serving the opportunities I was saying yes to. And so Bob Goff, who's a Christian author, writes something about like quitting something every Thursday. And I've definitely gone through seasons where I just needed to like quit a lot of things. I was saying yes to things, whether it was like a nonprofit that I was on the board of, or whether it was just saying yes, either to make myself feel good or to make myself feel busy that I was being productive, and just doing an audit on myself of like, am I truly spending time on what needs to be done and what needs to be done for the business and for my life? And it's okay to say no to things now and pursue them later. And that's been a reality check that I've gone through. I would say a superpower that I have is like, I think when we think about the big motivational talks, you think about the big, what people think of entrepreneurs, you think the alpha, you think the lion in the room. I'm the opposite. I'm a cockroach. Like, you just can't kill me. Like, I'm just somebody who like, I will just wear you down. I will, from a business perspective, and it may not be pretty. It may not be as fast. It may not be as organized, but you cannot kill me. And that's where
you're like, I will be here. I will be here in the end.
I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna keep showing up. And again, it's not gonna be pretty, but I'm gonna keep showing up. And so for me, like, it's understanding that like my skill set is like, if my arch nemesis is my business to make it successful, I just got to wear that thing down. I just need to continue to take enough at bats that continue to have enough jet fuel, as you alluded to continue to have enough at bats, continue to survive the highs and the lows long enough that it becomes a success. And that's where I'm pretty well equipped, and our business has fortunately been able to weather some crazy storms, and not that we're not currently in them, they just look different. And
Right.
that's something that I would say that, I don't know if that directly answers, but in a very short capacity, like, burnout's real. And all, like, to all the founders out there, like, if you're in a deep, dark place, like, find the people you can call. And I found the people that I could call and give them the press release version. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you what's going on, but I've already worked through it. Versus now I'm getting a little bit more mature and a little bit more real with myself, where it's like, I got to tell the people that I love, that I know undeniably love me, like, I'm in a bad spot and I'm not looking for any help necessarily. I just need to articulate that. And I have found so much joy and so much meaning and purpose behind honest relationships. And also the byproduct of that is I've had a lot of people be willing to do the same. I had a guy in my life 2 months ago, about 2 months ago, who I would say is on top of the earth. He runs a big fund, a lot of success. And he called me. He's like, dude, I'm suicidal right now. And I just shared some things that I had been going on in my life as well. And we built this bond and this relationship that only few understand. But if you're willing to go there with people and be there and show up and be that yourself, it's amazing, one, how much better you feel as an individual, how much I think you can avoid burnout, and quite frankly, how much of a better leader you can become in your organization.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And you made some great points, as it relates to burnout. For those who are predisposed to burnout because of, as we'd say in sports, they have a high motor, right? They're going to work hard no matter what. No matter what you're doing, whether it's a lawn care company, whether you're working at, I want to say McDonald's, but great corporation, whether you're working at any job or a founder, like, there's people who are just biologically predisposed to putting extreme amount of effort into their work, almost to the point of failure. I'm one of those people. I know a lot of those people, but even those who aren't those people, burnout is still real. One of the things that you mentioned is communicating, talking to people, right? Communicating where you are, how you feel. And like you said, not just the press release version, which, by the way, I've done that too. It's one of the things where you're kind of going through the motions and hitting the checkbox saying, you know what, I've got to talk about this, but I really don't want to hear the truth. So I'm just going to hit them with the press release version. Right. So that way I'm going to say, here's where I'm at. Yep, I'm already solving it. Just want to let you know. Right. So that means don't give me any feedback. Don't say anything to me. Don't act like you care. Right. But that isn't anywhere. That's not a solution. You and I both know that's not a solution. So you have to sort of be aware of that and be honest with the people who you trust enough with your emotions. Right. That's one. I think too, recognizing burnout is real. One of the things that I have read, they have said who they are. I don't know who the they is, but what they have said out there is that it takes as many days, months, weeks, or years to recover from burnout as whatever amount of time that you invested in the burnout condition. So if it took you 1 year to get to a level of burnout, it's going to take you 1 year to fully recover from burnout. And
that's the most discouraging thing I've ever heard. I've got 10 years coming of recovery. No, it's real. And I think I listened to, I think it was David Goggins who said it, but one of the things he talks about is like this concept of micro vacations. And I'm not somebody who can go sit on a beach for a week and relax. That is not peaceful to me. That actually gives me more anxiety. But
without your laptop and your phone and the emails and checking emails.
That doesn't help me. But what I have done is, like, if I'm spending time with a friend, put my phone away, because that may be an hour-long time that I can just focus on somebody else. And it's an hour-long vacation, if you will, but that's so meaningful and purposeful. I started to bring my dog into the office and we take a walk, 3 or 4 times a day, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, where I just listen to music or not. That's a little micro vacation that kind of is the juice that I need. And so whether you need the getaway for a month and the Grand Kumbaya, go for it. But also I have found that doesn't serve me. What does serve me is the small little wins in a given day that I can really start to focus on, and not try to obsess about the world around me, because those problems are going to be there in 20 minutes. They're going to be there in an hour. They're going to be there tomorrow. And so for me, it's finding the little wins that I can get along the way that I think help kind of fill my bucket up.
Yeah, super important. So communicating with those who you trust, the micro vacations or the little wins, or take breaks, stop and smell the roses, which whether you're an employee, a manager, a salesperson, a founder, when you are striving for success and you are driven towards success, and there is just so much noise that oftentimes we create ourselves, you have to stop and smell the roses. And there was a woman who I was a life, I don't want to say life, but a business and performance coach many years ago. And there was a woman that I had met in my coaching program. Her name was Patricia Carmichael. She had been an executive for Chase for a number of years. She was an older woman at the time when I had met her. And I think I was in my mid to late 20s at the time. So she was probably 50 at the time when I had met her. And one of the things that she said, and it's resonated with me and it stuck with me, she's like, Michael, no matter how hard you work, no matter what you're doing, you have to always stop and smell the roses, which means, as you just said, Matt, enjoy and take pleasure in the little wins, take a break, recognize what you have accomplished, take a breath, and then move on. Because if you don't take breaks and if you don't enjoy the little wins, number one, you lose sight of what it is that you're working so hard for, but also you get tired a lot faster. So little wins are important. Taking breaks, take real vacations too, which is also important. Okay,
for sure.
Take a vacation.
That one I'm working on. That's like of all those, that one is the biggest one that I'm working on. But for sure.
Eat healthy, right? As you mentioned, cutting out alcohol or significantly reducing, that will make a difference. Eating healthy, being aware of what goes into your body, something that for those of you who have known me for a while, you'll notice that I look a lot slimmer.
Oh yeah, looking good, baby.
Yeah, I've dropped over almost 30 pounds over the last months. Because one of the things that I realized is that in order for me to continue to operate at such a high level, that I had to feel better. I had to feel less tired, right? Knowing that I'm already going to be going to bed a little later than I probably should. Yep. And I care to admit, and waking up earlier than I would care, than I would like. What I'm taking into my body helps me feel better, which helps me to run longer, harder without burning out. So these are things that are all important. So awesome.
For sure.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of takeaways there. So we have about 10, 15 minutes left. I want to talk about some war stories. So, as a manager, founder, whether it's a startup or not, there's always kind of these moments that you either think that you're not going to recover from, or these moments where you, like you had mentioned, there are days where you've like doubted everything that you are doing and have felt like a failure. But, I guess let's talk through some of those moments and how we've recovered from those. So, I can start and say, as a founder, I have experienced, as a founder, as a leader, as a manager, as a coach, as a husband, as a father, I've experienced more than one moment where I felt like a complete piece of shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what am I doing? Why isn't it working? It was working last week and something happened today and it seems like now nothing is working, right? But then the next day, and I have this mindset that every day is a new day. So just reset. Whatever happened yesterday, just forget about it and reset.
Yep.
But in those moments, feeling like such an extreme failure, and one of the things that I found out is that the moments that I felt like, as I mentioned, such a piece of shit and a total failure, those issues weren't even that big of a deal, right? But in that moment, I thought that my company, my personal life, my business, whatever, was completely exploding. Everyone's they're going to expose me right? But it was just me inside of my head feeling doubtful about myself because I want to be successful and I want others to feel successful so bad that I have taken on, like I've almost taken on the responsibility of their feelings. I've taken that on in that moment and it's become mine. And so I recognize that about myself. It's something that I haven't quite fixed and solved, but it is there and something that causes me to experience, as you mentioned, those deep, dark places from time to time. I can admit that it's not solved. I haven't solutioned it, but I am aware of it. And because I'm aware of it, there's things that I can put in place to avoid it from happening. Right. And I've been working on those pieces. Okay. And I'm still a work in progress. But I would say that for me has kind of just been like a big aha moment that I recognize in myself as a leader and as a manager and as a founder and as a parent and as a husband is I can only control what I can control. And I can't really control someone else's feelings. Can't control their feelings and can't really control their expectations, only to the extent that I've set those expectations. That's all that I can control. So I really try to stay in my lane and focus on the things that I can cause outcomes for. And that's it. And so is it working? A little bit. Still figuring it out.
Slowly but surely.
Right. Slowly but surely. I would say that's a big one for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think in one sense, I don't think we'll ever fully arrive, because I think if you arrive, you're probably not doing something worth pursuing. So that's one piece that I have about that. Secondly, I think on top of that, like I'm somebody of faith. Faith's important to me, and I also equally feel like there's a devil out there that likes to twist and manipulate our own thoughts. Not everybody believes that, but that's something that's important to me. And so, in my mind, I think the devil, bad thoughts, manipulation, whatever you want to call it, does a really good job at taking really important qualities about us and just slightly turning them 1 degree and making them really ugly. So for you mentioned you feel like a failure because you're letting down the people that you care about, your own success, your own product that you're delivering, your own opportunities you're providing for your clients and your employees. And yet, if you flip that 1 degree and you say, that's because you care, that's because you care about your people in your life, you care about your customers, you've got a sense of healthy pride that's like, I want to make sure that I'm doing good. And then there's this twist that we do with our own mind, our own brain. Again, whatever you think, whatever the big grand kumbaya pressure of that is, that it's twisting it to turn it into, well, that's because you're a failure. That's because you're letting these people down. And for me, I've gone through that kind of that pendulum swing of like, I'm so prideful about succeeding, not because I need the yacht or the plane or the big money in the bank account, but because I do care. I want to succeed for the people that believe in me. I want to succeed for our clients. I want to create a company that gives people opportunities they never would have had otherwise. I want that. And so leveraging that and saying, one of the reasons I'm so driven is not to avoid the pain of the outcome, but more so to reap to bear the fruit of what that opportunity may be. And so, I think that, kind of the concept of like war stories is like, I think every single entrepreneur is going to face crippling moments where you're bawling your eyes out, you're calling the friend, you don't even know what your problem is. I hate the question, how are you doing? Because quite frankly, I have no idea how the hell I'm doing. I can't even answer that question. Right.
Yeah, I can tell you later. I can tell you later how I was doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know. And so for me, it's like, yes, I've got some awesome stories. I mean, I've had 18 times that at a minimum on Monday, I didn't know we had enough money to make payroll on Friday. You know about a few of them. And so it's like that level of stress as I'm letting investors down. This whole thing may fail. I have to deal with bankruptcy. I have to fire employees. I have to tell investors we suck, right? All of those things start to creep into your mind. And a mentor of mine kind of talked me through, and it's a really screwed up way of thinking, but like occasionally will allow myself to go down to the worst possible outcome, and I accept that outcome. And I'm like, all right, what if everything that I was imagining was one step worse than what I can even imagine? I'm like,
right.
All of those problems become actually kind of solvable when you think about it that way. Like there's no challenge that's not capable of solving. It may be painful, it may suck, it may hurt in the short term, but all problems are solvable. And with that being said, some problems aren't worth solving. I mean, there's some reasons, like we got up to 32 people at one point. I thought I had this huge investor coming in and it didn't happen. So I had to unfortunately let some people go, and that sucked. But it was a solvable solution that ultimately put them in a better place, put our company in a better place, put our investors in a better place. And that was the right solvable solution at the time. Sometimes it's telling employees really bad news. And I have been shocked at how well received, not always pretty, but well received that bad news may be when I was so deeply afraid to have that conversation with folks. And so I just think that, like, I think at the core of all of this, if it's something that is meaningful and purposeful, and it's a path that you have gone down, you can solve all problems if you really want to. Part of it's letting the right people in, and not everybody's worth letting in, to be very clear, but part of it's letting the right people in. And it's being very honest about what you need. And some days you just got to live long enough to survive the next day. Every single day you wake up, you won the last day. That's it. Period. You won,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so sometimes, and one of my investors said it, 365 days a year, he wakes up and he gets punched in the face. Now, 360 of those days are horrible, but the 5 days are worth every single penny, bar none. And I think it's truly comes down to, like, are you pursuing something that is meaningful and you care enough about, and you put people around you that care enough about, that it's worth surviving those days? And in my case, yes. And I've had to go through the audit at times where it hasn't been the case. And I've removed those things from my life that aren't worth doing. And so I just think that, like, the war stories are the entertaining ones. The one you cheers a beer or a non-alcoholic beer with a friend over and you swap those. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to face them. And it's not avoiding those, because that's not why we're in this business, to avoid risk. We're in this business, we're in this world that only few truly understand, to create something meaningful. And that could be a small, localized, meaningful thing, or that could be something that's grandiose and changes the world. If it's meaningful and purposeful to you, it is worth fending off and fighting off those challenges, however you have to do it. And that's, I don't know, that's why I go back to the cockroach thing. It's like, I'm gonna come up with a solution. I'm gonna figure it out. It's gonna, it's gonna suck at times. And sometimes it's gonna be 10 times better than I ever could imagine. And I, in my experience, and you're like this, I'm an action forward person. It's, let's take an action and figure it out later. And I have learned that, like, if I take some time actually to be a little still and process, usually a lot more good things come my direction. So there's a lot there. Take out of that whatever's most valuable.
That's awesome. And this has been an amazing session so far. I could say definitely one of the best sessions that I have had so far, and I appreciate it. And for those that are watching our podcast, really important for you all to know how much your founders care about the experience that you have with their product, their solution, their service. Now, not all founders, but most founders care so deeply about how you are experiencing their product and services, almost to the point of, like, physical shutdown, right? That's sure how much they care about it. I know Matt cares about his product and his company so much. You're doing great things with Wedge. And for anyone who is watching this podcast, and to the extent that you're looking for a video interviewing service, check out Wedge HR. This wasn't supposed to be a commercial, but this is a commercial. Check out Wedge HR, led by an inspirational leader, Matt Baxter. They're doing great things. And what we do know is that Wedge will be around for a very long time, because Matt is a cockroach. And cockroaches never die.
Put it on the gravestone, baby. Put it on the gravestone.
Awesome. So that was great, Matt. It was It took a long time for us to get together and execute here today. I'm glad that we did. A lot of great content that I think could be taken away, and a lot of great learnings that others who are founders thinking about starting a business, those who have been running a business for a while, or those in a leadership position can definitely take away from this conversation. So thank you very much for being here. Super appreciate it. You're the man. Thank you.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the work that you're doing. This is beyond just business. It's actually the meaningful stuff that people are afraid to talk about, and I'm just very grateful to know you and call you a friend and a mentor, and I'm excited for our next time together. Thank you.